Hello and welcome to the lesson where we'll be discussing if-else statements in Java. During this lesson, we'll discuss the following topics: syntax and usage of if-else statements. We'll also see some examples of if-else statements in Java code, and we'll also discuss nesting of if-else statements. So an if-else statement in Java is a conditional statement that allows you to execute different code based on whether a given condition is true or false. The basic syntax of an if-else statement is as follows, as you can see at the example from the top. This code is just a pseudocode, and in this example, the condition is a Boolean expression that is evaluated to either true or false. If the condition is true, the code inside the first set of curly braces will be executed. If the condition is false, the code inside the second set of curly braces will be executed. It's important to note that the else statement is optional. You can use only if statement, like at the example 2. Here is an example of an if-else statement in action. Let's define int variable x and assign it value of 5. And then, if x is greater than 10, let's print that x is greater than 10. And otherwise, if x is not greater than 10, let's print that x is not greater than 10. Okay, so in this example, we define variable x with value 5, and the condition x is greater than 10 is evaluated to false. So the code inside the else block will be executed, this one, and the output will be x is not greater than 10. Let's run the program and see the output. Okay, so we can see that x is not greater than 10 was printed. But if we update the value of x from 5 to 11, for example, let's run the program again and see the result. So now x is greater than 10 was printed to the console. This is because this condition now was evaluated to true, because now x is actually greater than 10. So this code will be executed not from the else, but this one. That's a quick overview of the syntax and usage of if-else statements in Java. So in the next parts of this lesson, we'll take a deeper dive into how to use if-else statements in your code, and we'll also see the different ways you can nest them. So here is an example of how you can use an if-else statements to check if a number is even or odd. Let's look at the demo 1. In this example, we are using the modulus operator, or %sign, which returns the remainder of a division to check if the number is even or odd. If the remainder is 0, then the number is even, and the code inside the if block will be executed. If the remainder is not 0, then the number is odd, and the code inside the else block will be executed. Another example is checking if a person's age is greater than or equal to 18. Let's look at the demo 2. In this example, we are using the greater than or equal to operator to check if the person's age is greater than or equal to 18. If it is, the code inside the if block will be executed. If it is not, the code inside the else block will be executed. So for this particular case, you can see that "you are an adult" will be printed to the console. Let's discuss nesting of if-else statements in Java. Nesting of if-else statements refers to using one or more if-else statements inside another if-else statement. This is useful when we have multiple conditions that need to be checked in a specific order. So here is an example of nesting if-else statements in Java. You can see the example in the demo 3 code. In this example, we first check if the person's age is greater than or equal to 18. If it is, we then check if the person's age is greater than or equal to 21. If it is, we print out that the person can legally drink alcohol. If not, we print out that the person can vote but not drink alcohol. If the person's age is less than 18, we print out that the person is not old enough to vote or drink alcohol. It's important to note that when using nested if-else statements, the innermost if-else statement is executed first, followed by the next outermost statements, and so on. Also, indentation is crucial to understand the flow of the nested if-else statement. It's also important to keep in mind that too much nesting can make your code difficult to read and understand. In such cases, it's better to use an if-else ladder or switch statements instead, so we'll discuss them later in our future lessons. Let's discuss if-else ladder in Java. In Java, an if-else ladder is a control statement that allows you to test multiple conditions and execute different code blocks depending on the results of those tests. On your current screen, you can see the syntax of an if-else ladder. Let's break down the components of the syntax. The if keyword is followed by a set of parentheses that contain a Boolean expression or a condition that is evaluated to either true or false. If the condition is true, the code block inside the first set of curly braces is executed. If the condition is false, the program moves on to the next if-else statement, if there is one, and checks its condition. If that condition is true, the code block inside the second set of curly braces is executed. This process continues until either one of the conditions is true or the last else block is executed. The else keyword, followed by a set of curly braces, contains code that is executed if none of the previous conditions are true. Here's an example of an if-else ladder that uses relational operators to compare two integers. So you can see it in the current screen. In this example, the program compares the values of x and y using the greater than and less than operators. Depending on the result of these comparisons, the program executes different code blocks. If x is greater than y, the program prints x is greater than y. If x is less than y, the program prints y is greater than x. And if both x and y are equal, the program prints x and y are equal. It's important to note that an if-else ladder can have any number of if-else statements, but it must have one if statement and one else statement. The order of conditions is also important, and the program executes the first code block whose condition is true and ignores the rest of the ladder. In summary, an if-else ladder is a powerful control statement that allows you to test multiple conditions and execute different code blocks depending on the results of those tests. By using relational operators and Boolean expressions, you can create complex if-else ladders that can handle a variety of scenarios. So that's it for the lesson. Thank you for attention. Happy coding and see you on the next lesson. Bye.